other videos, or maybe not, of using the scaffolding as a workbench. It sort of works, but as you can see, it gets pretty cluttered pretty fast. I don't really have, I'm going back and forth and piling up tools. It's really not very well organized. And it's limited in its, its usability. I can still use it as a roll around work surface, but there's things about it that aren't close to perfect. As a matter of fact, they're pretty far off. So I thought about it. Maybe I should make a couple of workbenches. When I say a couple, I'll make two for a couple of reasons. I'd be able to push them together. I'm going to make them 2 feet wide, 8 feet long, which is a comfortable depth for working. That's about what those are. It'd be a little longer than that. But if I push them together, I get a 4x8 work surface. So if I'm assembling something or working on a bigger project, I've got room to set things around. I could move them around, different spots in the shop, depending on what I'm doing. So, other design features that I really want to think about is I've got my table saw, and it's a nice table saw, nice contractor saw, easy to move around, got the stand. This is a good height to work at, so I'm going to incorporate that height. But if I make these work tables just a little bit shorter, like 1/8 of an inch, then I could park one here and use it as an outfeed table. Or I could park one on the side and use it as a spot to hold up long pieces. If say I'm taking, and I've done this, take like a 2x8 and I'm ripping off 1 foot long pieces, I could use a skill saw or the circular saw. Sometimes a little more accurate doing it on this. And I could do it that way. With the two of them back here, if I wanted to rip a piece of plywood, I could do that. Make it a lot easier when I've got 8 feet to push stuff onto. So I'll design it so that it's the right height for this. I want it to be movable. So I've got these locking casters, so I could have these on the legs and be able to lock it in place so it's not going to go anywhere. I got hard nylon ones because rubber ones tend to be a little. If you're moving something around a lot, maybe but these will tend to ride up over little stones, and with a stone driveway, stones do get in here. What else? Another design feature, if I want to use an outfit table, I want it to be somewhat smooth and slick. So, what I'm thinking of doing what I'm going to do for the surface is I want it nice and sturdy. So I'm using 3/4 inch or 1930, I don't know what this is. When you go millimeters, but basically it's 3/4 of an inch, and then putting masonite over the top. Masonite has got a nice smooth surface. I've seen other people use these in for their workbenches. Wood glue can usually pop right off of this because it is a hardboard with a non-porous surface. There is a porous surface on the other side, but I'm gonna screw this down just so that it's I can remove it. If I did damage it, scratch it, whatever, I can remove it. So that's it. Now we get into the finer points. I want to take the combined thickness of all of this, the 3/4 inch plywood, the masonite is 7/8. So I need to take 7/8 into account. If I really want to get accurate about it, I can set this to the depth, and now I can carry this around and use it if I need it. Still developing this whole thing. So let's go over and see what the table saw is. So trying to measure the exact height of the table saw surface. Pieces are sloped down. You got the guides for the rip fence are in the way, but I can slide this out. Also, there's stuff down here that's in the way, legs, wheels, all that. But if I snake this down in between everything and measuring off of this surface, it comes out to 34 and it's just a hair under 34 1/4. So if I go, I take the 7/8 off of that and also take into account the wheels. Now these are 3-inch wheels, but they're actually 3 and, of course my tape measure is all gooped up at that point. Three and a half. So now I gotta figure out all those to take off of the 34 1/4. So I could do all the math, but this also makes it easier. We start off, the top of the table saw is 34 1/4, which is right there. Okay, we're gonna take off the 3 1/2 for the caster. So 1, 2, 3 1/2 puts us down here at 30 3/4. Now I got to take off the 7/8 for the top. Okay, and 3/4 is 6/8. All right, so 7/8 is going to be 1/8 past. So 29 and 7/8 is the height of the legs. I'm using 4x4s because I really want it to be really strong. All right, so caster, top, and that's where I'm cutting. Now this would be, if I had the table set up already, I could do this on the table saw, have it supported down this way and be able to set the fence and repeat. But now I'm gonna have to measure each one and go from there. This is a 10-foot 4x4. So it's going to give me 3 legs No, it's gonna give me all 4, I think. So anyway, let's get cutting. Now I just got to do that 3 more times for the first table. Now before I cut a whole mess of more legs, it's always nice to double check your work. All right, so remember I made this, I could bring it over, I could set this on the bed, set the post up, set a wheel on it, and I have an 1/8 of an inch gap in here, which is just what I want. I want the outfeed table, use that to be just a little bit shorter than the actual table saw. That way when wood sliding, it's not gonna catch, not gonna bind. I do have to keep in mind sawdust is gonna get up on there, but good way to double check your work before you go any further. Okay, now that the legs are cut, to make the decision of how to attach them, the supports for the top. And I could just screw them together this way, but let's make this look nice. So I like this kind of look a little better. I could toenail it in. It's not going to be as strong, or I could cut a space in here to call it dado, where this will be inserted into it and or the pieces I use will be flush with the sides. I think that's what I'm going to do. Now, if I do one side and then I do the other side, I can take and, have it, the 8-foot pieces down this way, and then insert the pieces across. They'll make it so it's 2 feet wide. The easiest way to do this, do it on the table saw. I'll just set the table saw up to this depth, and we'll make a cut along the side where we want, and then make multiple cuts. If I had a dado blade, which this saw will not handle, I could do it bigger passes, but so let's go get the table saw set up and be able to knock all these out. By the way, one of the ends is damaged. I was gonna use this for a different project, but if I do it here, this is going to be set in that far, and you're going to have this little bit that'll show unless I make it so this is on the inside. So we can work around defects like that. So let's get the table saw set up. All right, so to get this set up, I can take and set the blade to the same height as this. There's this 2x4, and I can feel the blade is just touching it. Just touch just above the top here. That's sort of the easy way. Now with this right up against the blade, I can adjust the fence so that it's contacting this, And that is going to give us the, I want to just contact it, I don't want it really tight. Lock that in place. All right. So when I go to do this, the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to use a fence with the, I don't even know what that's called. But the problem is you're pushing this through, it could tip a little bit and jam, and then that would cause the blade to kick the wood back, and that's going to hurt. So what I'm going to do is we'll set this aside for the first cut, the first couple cuts, where we can hold this up tight against the fence and just I keep my fingers off to the side and make a, just, slide it through. Once we get it through for the first cut, then we can go back to using the T-slide. Somebody tell me what that's called if I'm just blanking on it. So let me get the generator going so I have power, and we'll go and start doing this. Actually, before I make a mess, I get the grand garbage can over a little closer. All right. So in order to clean this up, make it very carefully. And that gives a pretty decent finish. the 2x goes in fairly flush. Now I got to do the other side for that piece and repeat. All right, there we go. So we have one 2x4 coming in this way, end piece coming in this way, and I haven't decided whether it's going to be like this, where the inside one is inset a little bit. I think that'll look sort of nice, or do I do it this way and like that where they're flush? But I got plenty of time to think of it because I got 7 more of these to do. Now if you don't have a table saw, you can do it. You can do the dado with a circular saw. What you want to do is set the depth of the blade. I find the easiest way to do this is get it on top of the 2x4 a little far. Bring it down like that. Lock it in place now. That's your depth. And I've marked out on here where I want to do it. So what I do is make the first cut right at the line. And then you can make another cut.
What I like to do is to do a couple. Just like on the table saw, I do a couple right there. That way, it won't splinter it out. Let me just make a whole lot of cuts.
And once you've gone through it, and I actually prefer, and I should have done the whole thing this way, is I put the wide part of the shoe on the surface. It gives me a steadier spot. But now with this, I'm going to get a chisel out and smooth this off, and then we just do the other side the same way. So, just the way, in case you don't have a table saw, it does make it easier with a chisel to clean that up. I got all 8 legs done, and I don't see any reason. It's a workbench, so it doesn't matter the fact that I'm using some 2x4s that were previously used for actually pouring the slab or screeding it off. So a couple of screws there, double check the square. Now we go down and do the same thing at the other end. Tell you, as nice as this trailer is to be used as a workbench, I'm looking forward to having something a little bit shorter to walk around. So that's the beginning of one side. And let me get this out of the way and we'll make another one just like it. 92 1/4. All right, so obviously this would be a little too wobbly, needs a little more support. And what I'm gonna do is put a shelf partway down, but I'm inserting it all the way to give a little bit of knee room down below so I'm not banging my shins. And we'll put this in, then I gotta do the pieces across to tie both of these things together. And it started to rain, so I couldn't show you putting these together. Basically, I measured 24 inches across from here to here, cut this piece to fit inside, and then this piece, made sure everything was square. And now I'm putting the casters on. They don't have to be super accurate, but I'm using these 2.5 inch screws, which should anchor it fairly well. Even though screws, if I put smaller screws in, they would probably rip out because screws are really for going across the grain, so it's tying into more than one. By doing this on the end grain, it's actually the weakest way to do it, but because the screws are down this far, it should be strong enough. So let me get this last one in, and we'll get it up and flip it over so it's upright. Yeah, let's see if I can do this without killing myself. There's the basic framework. And when I was buying stuff, I forgot to get the plywood for inside there, but we will get to that. So there we go. That's the start. I'm not going to do the top yet until I get that inside piece and get everything squared up, because it's sort of a little candy-wampus, but we'll get to that soon. Okay, so I got the two frames built, and next step is going to be to cut the wood for the shelves on the lower shelf, and then we'll do the tops. Now, what I bought was, I had a choice. I could go plywood or OSB. Local lumberyard is a $5 difference, so I went with the plywood. Looks nicer, I think. And I got it here in my truck. These bottom shelves are just a whisker under 17 inches. So what I want to do is get it lined up so that the gap between the two tables falls into that 17 inches. That way I'm not cutting into my tables. I could set it up on the table saw to cut these, but I don't have an outfeed table yet. But I do have this, and I find these are much more easy, much better at for me to cut plywood down. This is a rip saw made by Craig. I'm going to set this so it's just below the thickness. Just a little, just a hair deeper than this. That way it doesn't create as many splinters and rip it up. Anyway, this is it's called a rip saw jig from Craig. Goes on pretty much any saw. You mount this bracket. This can be adjusted. There's a scale. It goes up to 24 inches. So I can do anything. I can rip plywood lengthwise 24 inches, up to 24 inches. I can, if I want to cut it down, so like an 8-foot piece, I can cut it down as far as like to 6 foot using this. Either more than that, I got to use something else. But anyway, let me show you how this works. Basically, excuse me, keep this tight up against the side, and it will just follow along. Just that easy. There we go. I gotta do one more. Get that one, and then I'll screw this down, and then we'll get the stuff for doing the top. Now, this masonite is only like 1/8 of an inch thick, and because of that, come on, just a little bit. Because of that, there's not a whole lot on this side. If I make it so that there's a gap over here, there's not a good spot for me to do it. So I put some 2x4s underneath. I also clamped it at both ends so it doesn't have a chance to slide around. It is really light, but this will be my top surface, so let's see how this goes.
may notice that I don't watch the saw at all. I watch this. I want that edge to stay nice and tight up against this. So, if I did this right, and I am pretty sure I did. Oops. Looks like I must have lifted the saw just up there, right here at the end. There we go. Well, I just gotta put this down. Now, a lot of times, if people are doing this, they will put down, they'll do contact cement, glue this down. Because this is gonna be a workbench, I envision over the next, dozen years or so, this might get chewed up. I'm gonna screw it down, so I gotta go get those, and I'll show you how I'm doing that, so that they're flush, and that way I can unscrew it and replace it as needed. So I'm using a countersink bit, so it's got a little countersink on here. So the idea is I'm using these flathead screws. I got that little taper, and when I put that in, it should be, and now that one's a little bit high. There we go. So that's flush or just a little bit below the surface, and that way stuff sliding across and won't catch on it. Now I just got to do all this. I don't know if you can hear the hissing noise, and the reason the doors are closed is it's raining. I don't know how long, and I don't know how violent, but it's raining, which is good. There we go. A couple of rolling workbenches that I can push together. And I can always take a couple of clamps, clamp them together. Gives me a nice big work surface. And the masonite, hopefully that'll help keep me from accidentally gluing things to the workbench. But tool storage underneath, and I'm happy with these. Well, most of the time the place is probably going to be apart, but you never know. What's all this stuff? What? Oh, you're going to have to wait for an upcoming video to see what I do with this. But thanks for coming along. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you picked up a hint or two, or figured out you're going to make some of your own. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for coming along on the journey. See you later, my friends. Stay safe.